Colorado,
yeah.
right against Coach Prime. And
Nice.
look, Coach Key thrives in these situations where other teams getting all the credit and all the attention. They're being
All right,
rowdy.
welcome
He's a lot of
back.
those guys motivated, going to Boulder to play that game. You know it's going to get a lot of attention because of Deion. So a great opportunity for Georgia
If you
Tech.
think about those two head coaches, are they like the complete opposite of each other? You got Coach Prime and all the flash. You got Coach Key just wearing a cutoff
True.
sweat top.
His watch
Ready to
game
play
be on
right
point,
now.
right?
Really tough.
So
And
it's
the
like
boots.
that.
I should have saw him
He's
at
got
the
the boots,
championship game.
too.
I was like,
Man, Coach blinded me.
It's no trip to Ireland, but they are going out to Colorado, which is beautiful. October, when you look at Georgia Tech's schedule, to me is the toughest part. You got Virginia Tech at Duke, Syracuse at NC State. Right there in the thick of things, EJ.
What I like, though, is the buys. So you look at the open dates, the beginning of October, open date, beginning of November, I guess the second week of November. That's crucial. You're right, Taylor. It is going to be a tough bout there with some of these teams, especially in the chunk between Virginia Tech and NC State. But that allows you at least for a breather when you get to the back third of the season, when you have Boston College and you also have Pitt and then Georgia, which you want to win. I think this is the year where we can see Georgia Tech get over the hump. It's kind of a younger Georgia team, but hopefully Georgia Tech can take it home and get a victory.
And I agree with you, but again, the schedule is it's always so brutal. Anybody that plays Georgia and Clemson in the same year, I mean, it's hard. It's difficult to do, but they're built for this. They have great retention as well.
I want to push back on that, though, because another conference thrives on their schedules being harder. So I feel like these teams in our conference, you got to embrace it.
I mean,
I feel what you're saying.
You look at Ole Miss. I mean, they're kicking and screaming, but they lost.
Right.
They didn't
Right.
win. You look at South Carolina, they lost.
Right.
So it's hard.
But
It's
that's
hard
why-
to get over that hump to get into a championship or a playoff.
But that's why that conference thinks that they should get more
Sure.
slots because
Sure.
they play harder schedules.
Sure.
So the harder we can get the schedules,
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's the better.
I agree.
I know it's not fun.
Yeah, you got to go get after it.
No doubt.
Yeah,
That's part of
and you gotta
football.
win. Right.
That's
and
what
when
it
you
is.
have a guy like Haynes King, who again, arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and you keep filing. I mean, the retention piece, very impressed for me on what they did, how they did it. I know you lost Singleton, but you have Rutherford back, and just seeing the things that they're going to be able to do specifically because of that guy. I mean, the ultimate competitor. He's just nonstop fighter.
I actually wrote down that Georgia Tech's schedule really manageable. Only 3 of their 8 ACC games are against teams who have won more than 7 games last year. So you don't know what the new season's
never-
going to
well,
hold.
not at all.
But if you're looking at it today,
Not at all.
And one of the big games they got to win to get in is Clemson at home,
Right.
which is going to be very helpful.
so I think there's some manageable moments there for Brent Key's squad, who will be ready to play out the gate at Colorado. Moving on to a team that made it to Charlotte, as Coach talked about earlier in this show. In year 1, under Jeff Brom, is the Louisville Cardinals. And last year, look, they had 3 losses by just 1 score. 2 to playoff teams, 1 to Miami, and then a Stanford head scratcher out there on the farm. But when you look at this schedule, EMAC, what do you see for the Cardinals?
Well, very, I don't want to say easy because football is hard, but Eastern Carolina or Eastern Washington, I'm all over the place. Kentucky, I don't know where I am. Kentucky there, James Madison, Bowling Green, like that is uninspiring to me in regards to who you schedule. As you just said, I want to see more big boy football. I want to see more
surprised.
powerhouse. I know you have Kentucky at the end there, but I mean, come on, let's challenge ourselves a little bit here. But you know, you look at who they're playing. They are only one of 2 ACC teams, the other being Syracuse, that play Miami, SMU, and Clemson. I mean, that's hard. That's difficult when you look at the best of the best in this league. And they have a new quarterback, Miller Moss, coming over, who Louisville fans very familiar with, lit them up in the Holiday Bowl, I believe, a couple of years ago. So it's going to be fascinating to see who they are. Isaac Brown's going to be unbelievable. That true freshman last year, he's going to be a sophomore. The other young cat freshman running back. So there's pieces that we know, but there's also going to be a lot of question marks.
My big challenge, though, these early games, you mentioned Eastern Kentucky, James Madison, who blew out North Carolina by 100 points, it seemed like, and then Bowling Green. You got to win those games, though. You know what I mean? So, like, as much as, this
they
seems
do,
like a
though.
layup
They normally
on
do
paper,
that. Yeah.
you got to win those.
Right.
For crying out loud, please, all ACC teams, do not lose these games
Right.
to these teams that
Sure.
you should not lose to, because automatically the narrative is gone. It's gone. It ain't coming
Ruined.
back neither.
Ruined.
It might go to Clemson. It might go to another team that's also okay, but it's ruined for the league, not just for that specific team. The other part that's tough, too, the back end schedule, after that open date, starting at Miami, it's a gauntlet from that point, which, again, could be a good thing if you got to help
too
the team.
is I think that the open date's too early in the middle of their non-cons. That's not good, in my opinion. And then once they have the second open date mid-season, you got 7 straight
Tough
games.
ones.
Very
Brutal.
tough
Yeah,
ones.
brutal.
Yeah. So that's
Look
just
at
the way
that
the
whole
schedule's set
right
up.
side of the
It's
schedule.
not favorable to me.
I actually don't mind the early open date for them when you're breaking in a new quarterback.
Fair.
It'll give you a little bit more time to get him ready and get him acclimated with the offense. But then that open date is important before Miami because those teams are tough, but because they play a physical brand of football. Miami's going to run the ball down your throat. Boston College the same way. Virginia Tech, that's what they want to be.
SMU.
SMU. Clemson as well, a tough offensive line. Cal with Jaden Ott coming back, he's going to have a better year. So it's going to be a physical brand of football, and staying healthy is going to be the key for that team.
No doubt.
Year 3 for Jeff Brom, 9-4 last season. I mentioned some of those close losses, and then the head scratcher to Stanford that probably shouldn't have happened. They kind of beat themselves in that game. Jeff Brom's team's going to be ready to go with an early, easy slate, but then it gets really real once you flip the calendar to late October and November. The Florida State Seminoles. It's a conversation we really don't want to have in talking about last season, all right? 2-10. That's now in the rearview mirror. Look, the reality is, though, it has to be better. And it starts off early, August 30th at
That's your
Doak
consolation prize.
against
Good job.
Alabama. But look, to be fair, that Alabama team is
Same.
going to look a lot
Oh,
different
yeah.
as well. So there's question marks all over the field when these two go at it. But that August 30th, EJ, needs to be
I'd rather have
big for
Alabama's
Florida
question
State.
marks. I'd rather have Alabama's question marks.
Yeah. Well, the good part though, this game is in Tallahassee.
Yes.
The fan base is going to be extremely excited. I would assume the
Brand new
renovations
stadium, yeah.
to the
Yep.
to the stadium are going to be new, so it's going to be rocking in there. And you got a new quarterback.
Yep.
It's almost feast
I
or
love-
famine a little bit. And I
love that
I
guy.
like Thomas Castellanos, but can he be the guy that has a leadership factor? I'm not talking about the X's and O's of playing the game. Can you lead this team? This team they lost 10 games last year.
Right.
That ain't good enough.
Great.
That's awful. Truly, that's awful.
Terrible.
So you need a quarterback that, like Cam Ward, can grab guys by the shirt collar and be like, man, tighten up.
Let's go.
I'm not gonna be 2-10 on this team. I'm not gonna be embarrassing to this city, to this state.
Correct.
So that's kind of my question. Like, what kind of leadership are they gonna have in this football team? That's why they lost many games.
The deal to me is you are already so much better at the quarterback position. It is such an upgrade with what he can do physically, moving around with his arm, running the football, creating. And he was put in a box, and we all knew as soon as Bill O'Brien got that job, there were going to be issues with Thomas Castellanos.
We
as
thought his
quarterback.
days were numbered.
We knew it. We knew
From the
that was going
beginning.
to happen. And now you're with a guy, Mike Norvell, who wants you to be an artist, who wants you to be a creator. You're with Gus Malzahn, who has had all of them, all those creative quarterbacks. I think that is going to flourish. I think those 2-3 relationship, however you want to look at it, is going to be fantastic.
Well,
for
the
Florida
one
State.
word, the one thing that Florida State lost last year was confidence. By the end of the season, their confidence was shot. So they need a shot in the arm.
Yeah.
And I think Castellanos going to do it.
Well, in game 1, it's a judgment game for Florida State because you can either excite the fan base or you can lose them. And that's the sad part. That's what I was a little bit disappointed with Florida State fans was that they were booing their team. That's not something I expected out of them. I feel like Castellanos will bring an exciting brand of football that'll get the fan base going again. They brought in a guy from USC, Deuce Robinson, big 6'6",
Monster.
tight end,
Yeah, hybrid.
wide receiver type of guy, kind of like Rondé Gaston. So they got a couple
comp.
guys,
Like
yeah.
that comp.
And so it should be different. But this fan base, man, I need them to support this team because they're trying, man. It was
Yeah,
ugly.
I was gonna say,
and
they're trying. They definitely are.
I know, but I was just surprised by that. I didn't expect that from.
I wasn't surprised. I mean, look, you lose to Memphis at home. You lose again. Sorry, no disrespect. You lose to Boston College early in the year. You lose to Georgia Tech. Like, you Florida State. I know it's a different. It is a different standard. That,
Coming
like,
off the year they had before.
Yeah, you just went 13-0. You won the conference. So that's I kind of get why the fans will be upset. I'm on the same line as you. I don't like when fans boo you either. I've been booed before, but at the same time, sometimes it is necessary, and
You know what
sometimes
the great
players need
Reggie,
to hear it.
you know what the great Reggie Jackson baseball player said?
What?
They don't boo nobodies.
That's
That's
true.
Yeah.
If you get booed,
And that means they care to me.
Right.
that's right.
And
I
so,
get it.
Yeah, I got you though. I agree with you. I agree with you. But you
It-
can only support to a certain extent. You lose 10 games. Like, damn, I'm booing too. Like, boo. You know what I mean? Like,
I'd rather you go home. I'm like, don't boo me,
Come
go
on,
home,
man.
bro.
Hey.
Just go. But I feel like they need a big win. They got opportunities for big wins.
You do.
They got Alabama, they got Clemson, they got Miami, they got Florida. You got to win a couple of those. You want to get back to being Florida
You gotta
State.
win all
Win
of
some
them.
of those big games.
Hey, look,
gotta
they got to win
remember-
8 games or more.
Look at November 8th
That's
and
gonna be hard.
beyond.
Yeah,
At Clemson,
November's
Virginia
brutal.
Tech,
Right?
at
I mean, that
Richmond.
stretch at Clemson, Virginia Tech coming to town, at House of Horrors, you mentioned it, NC State, and then at Florida.
Yeah.
That is a tough finish, but you hope you're developed enough at that point. That's brutal.
Wow.
Look, it's one thing to have a 2-10 season and do nothing about it and say, oh, we're going to shake it off and just move on. It's another thing. Mike Norvell looked in the mirror and decided, look, we got to make some changes here. They change
Which is
offensive
tough.
coordinator. They change defensive coordinator. And these are two guys. What do you feel about Gus Malzahn as OC and Tony White as DC?
Well, let me say this first before you say that. I text Coach Norvell on that day when
Yeah.
he fired those guys.
Yeah.
And he responded, one of the worst days of my life.
It
Like,
sucks.
it sucks. It
Because
sucks.
you're
to fire
family.
them. Right.
Nobody likes to fire
Yeah,
a coach.
I've been
Coach,
there.
you
I've
would
been
know.
there.
Yeah.
I've been there.
It's terrible.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
It'll be a different team. And I feel like people are questioning Castellanos and his leadership abilities. I don't. Because I could tell when things were rolling at BC, those guys in that locker room believed in him. He brought that confidence up. He brought the fun factor back. And I feel like he'll do that at Florida State early because even if you don't win that Alabama game, he's going to give you enough flashes to be excited about the rest of the year.
Well, the other thing too is Norvell has proven he can go in that portal and pull out
No
some
doubt.
gems.
No doubt.
I mean, you look at some of the greatest players in the last 3 or 4
Rookie of the years, coach. Yeah.
great players came out of that portal.
Right, and I think to look at the coordinators, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be really relieving to Coach Norvell. You have your mentor now there in Gus Malzahn running the offense. You know, Coach Norvell can pull back a little bit if he wants to. You know, again, it's everything that he learned from him. And then you look on the other side schematically. I mean, are they running the 3-3-5? You know, it's an interesting form of football when you're playing big boys. You're running the football. It's hard to stop. But I think he's a genius. I think when you look at a guy that was at Syracuse, very exciting. At Nebraska, some great defenses. So there's some excitement. It's just going to be interesting. How does it play
I
out?
just want to make sure my point about Castellanos' leadership is clear, though. My thing is, you got a lot of sad puppies on that football team, and whether they walk around
Gotta
and
give 'em
show
hype.
it,
Yeah.
you got to get. And Castellanos has to get guys back excited, thinking that they can win.
Yep.
Because when you lose 10 games, that's a lot of losses. It's the same way when you win 10 games, you walk around with your chest out. So I think that's going to be the big key for him. He's walking into something that this maybe isn't the Florida State that you saw when you were growing up.
Correct.
This is a Florida State that has to get kind of kicked in the butt a little bit to come on, like
But
get going.
It's also him getting his confidence back as
No
well.
doubt.
So
Sure.
that's on the coach.
He's confident though.
I
No,
feel
with
like
the
I can
scheme
tell
and
it-
everything,
yeah,
with Gus,
Right.
it should be a great fit.
Right.
Yep.
And I'll say that, you know, just him being when you have a good quarterback, everybody's excited. Everybody's juiced up. If you have somebody or multiple guys that we know we cannot win with this dude, it's hard, man. And so that instant juice just from that, but I agree with you. Bring everybody with you. Make them better.
Make Florida State confident again. Put that on a t-shirt. The Duke Blue Devils are a team last year that won significantly more than 2 games. They finished with 9 wins on their schedule under year 1 of Manny Diaz. He's now heading into year 2. They actually, in my opinion, have a tough non-conference schedule. Elon right off the bat, but then you have Illinois at Tulane and then NC State to start off ACC play. So early, you're going to get a dose of the Duke Blue Devils.
I just have to say it was very strange timing. You say a very difficult non-con, and the first word you say is Elon, and I almost fell out of my chair.
Sorry. I was kind
the
of like
Fighting
bracing
West
over
Durham.
that.
The Fighting West Durham. But yeah, Illinois, a great team. I mean,
Never know. You never know.
That's
Never
right.
know, right.
That is a fact.
Three of the four.
That's right.
Three of the four.
Don't hang on Eli. Don't backtrack. It's
That's
good.
right. That's right. You know,
Bulletin
Illinois,
board, Elon.
great
You
team.
did.
It's an in-state game. Come on now.
Why are you being so mean?
The Fighting Elons. I mean, what's their mascot?
Phoenix.
Coach? What's their mascot, Coach? Tell me right now.
It is the Phoenix.
I was asking him. Come on. But Illinois, a great team. And then at Tulane, I mean, you stole their quarterback. You're going to their house. You're going to them. That's going to be weird. That's going to be a really weird thing. I say stole. He probably got in the portal and made his decision. But he's apparently a lot of money. It is fast. I agree with you. It is a more difficult non-con.
Yeah, I think Michael Strickland of the ACC did them a favor by giving them that bye week at.
Mike gonna text you. You keep saying
It's all good, but he likes that though. I mean, he had a whole meeting about this thing, so I mean, it is what it
They
is.
spent the last 2 months putting these schedules together.
No doubt. I think
Shout
it was
out.
acknowledgement. This is a nice one though, because again, the middle portion of the season when you can have 2 bye weeks and basically play a game in between, that's pretty pivotal, especially coming off a bye. You got Clemson on the road.
Right.
UConn is a really good team. They won a bunch of games last year, a bowl team as well. So we'll see what they can do.
And this is actually something I meant to bring this up earlier. Can we pop the schedule up one more time? As you just mentioned, bye week, team in the middle,
Yep.
another bye week.
Yep.
That is a fascinating thing. I think Georgia Tech last year was the only team that experienced that, and obviously I believe they won both of those on the bookend. That is an interesting thing. I mean, how would you deal with that? It's kind of a stop, start.
Looking at it on paper, I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
I know what happened last year.
Sure.
Maybe it didn't affect those guys, but the thing that's crazy to me about this schedule is from Syracuse to UConn, it's like 2 months with only one home game.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
So that's crazy. That's a lot of travel.
But, Coach, you get to be at home in those bye weeks.
That's right.
So maybe that's a trade-off.
Oh, you're right.
With a
To
new
be on
quarterback and a young quarterback.
Yeah.
But I like open dates spaced out better.
Yeah, I do too.
Just for the health of your team.
I do too.
Usually you need a rest. You might get one guy who's injured and needs just one more week to get ready. And I think if you put them both together, that happens once a year instead of twice.
Or you have a serious injury, you have a bye, you don't play them against Georgia Tech, and then you have another bye. So that's
Yeah.
almost 3.5 weeks
True.
to get prepared if guys are hurt right
Timing
before
of
that
your
first.
I saw with Duke, Miami, and North Carolina that they all have to deal with that. But as a player, I don't know that I would like it. It would throw me out of rhythm.
Right.
That's the only thing. You get hot at the wrong time. You got these bye weeks. So maybe it'll help some teams. Maybe it'll hurt some.
Right.
Georgia Tech had it last year, and there was really no pushback on it, so they decided to proceed this year, and 4 teams now have the bye on their schedules. Make sure you circle that Duke-Elon game there on August 30th. Don't you forget it with double fans.
Fighting West Durham's.
Don't go anywhere, because we got a lot more here on the ACC Huddle schedule release. If you're a Panther fan, a Hokie, Eagle, or part of the pack, we'll dive into your schedules.
We'll be right back. We're on ACC Network this time.